Hi everybody, it's Saltash Math Tutor, and you'll see from the playlist that we've had the introduction to Pythagoras. Geometry 2 has shown you what so, car and toa means, and this video is going to be about the sine rule. Oh yes. Okay, so the sine rule, this is it. A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. One thing I would quickly like to say is that these are all sort of interchangeable, so A over sine A is equally as equal to C over sine C, or even C over sine C could be equal to B over sine B. It doesn't matter, they're all equal to each other. And you'll also recall from Geometry 2, the previous video that I did on this, that effectively the sine of any angle, let's just call the angle X, is one thing and one thing only. It's just a number. It's just a number, it's nothing else. So it could be something like 1 over 2, something like that. That's all it is. So because of that, with the sine rule, if A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C, we already know that sine of any of these angles is a number. Then the other great thing about the sine rule is that it relates to a non-right angle triangle. This is for a non-right angle triangle. If you've got a right angle triangle, use Pythagoras. Sine rule is for non-right angle triangles. Then we label up the sides, and I'm going to label this triangle to show you what it looks like. So the capital A stands for the angle, or is the angle, and the little a is the length of the opposite side. And then if I had B, which would be this angle, then the opposite side, that length, would be little b. And so it follows that if I've got C, which is this angle, then the little c is the length of that side. And that's the standard notation for any triangle, especially when you're doing sine or cosine rule, which I'll be doing later. But here's the crazy thing. You've seen the sine rule already. I just don't think you know it at the moment. And this is where you've seen it. If I had 1 over 2, or a half, and I said that that equaled 2 over 4. In fact, I can go further. I could say it equals, what should we have, 4 over 8. What sort of relationship would that be between these fractions? What sort of fractions would these be? Because it looks really similar, doesn't it, to A, which is just a number, over sine of A, which we already know is just a number, equaling B, just a number, over sine of B, which is just a number, equals C over sine C, which are just numbers. Well, the answer to the question that I posed here is that these are equivalent fractions. And that, my friends, is all that the sine rule is. It is just equivalent fractions that you are making. So as an example, we're presented with a triangle like this, and we're asked to find, what side should we find? Let's find this side here, that we don't know the length of that. Well, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start labelling things up, and just to make my life easier, I'm going to say that that is A, and that is the length little a. And I'm going to say that angle there is B, and that is the length little b. Now I could alternatively, because remember it doesn't matter, that could be C over little c, because they're all equivalent fractions. And now all I do is I start punching in the values into my formula, which I've put here, and just to make the point, you can use any one you like. I'm going to stick with A over sine A equals C over sine C. So let's put that information in. Well, okay, first things first. What's A? Well, A is 2. So we have 2 over sine of A, so that's the sine of this number here, 30, and you will need to use your calculator for that, unless you know the clock face trick, which I may do in another video. But the sine of 30 is a half. Now see how I'm writing it, and I'm not freaking out everybody, I'm just putting the numbers in. And then I've got C, which is here, and I don't know what C is yet, but that's not going to faze me. I'm just going to put C in here, over sine of C, sine of capital C, and sine of 15 is a quarter. Now you might know how to divide by fractions. You may wish to turn them into decimals. It doesn't really matter. This is almost certainly going to be in your calculator paper, so let's turn them into decimals and we'll go through the calculator way of working these out. So it will be 2 divided by 0.5 equals C divided by 0.25. Okay, so well, the first thing that we can do is we can actually do the calculation of 2 divided by 0.5, which is 4. So 4 equals little c divided by 0.25, and now we have to do that rearranging of the equation thing. So how do I get rid of the 0.25? Well, I must multiply the top by 0.25, and whatever I do to one side of the equation I must do to the other. So that becomes 0.25. Sorry, it's a bit of a squeeze here, times 4. Well, 0.25 divided by 0.25 is 1, so I end up with C, and that equals 0.25 times 4, which is 1. So that means that that length C there is 1, and that's all there is to it. Don't stress about the sign bit, it is just a number, it's just this calculation at the end. Now here's the only other way of working the sine problem, and you'll see we've got two sides and we've got the angle of 15. Now one of the key things to notice here, so you can tell whether you're using a sine or a cosine, I will go into the cosine in a different video, is you'll notice there's the pairing here exists. There's the angle, and opposite to the angle is the number. And when I look around I've got another length, but I've got an unknown angle here. That suggests that this relationship of the angle with its opposite length is equivalent to an angle plus its opposite length. And in fact in this question we're going to be asked to find this angle here, x. Now if you happen to flip back you'll see that this is exactly the same triangle as we had before. So we actually know what x is here, but I'm just going to show you this to prove the point. So there's the formula a over sine a equals b over sine b. So the first thing I'm going to do is to make my life easier is I'm going to label up the angles on the sides. So I've got a pair here, and I've got a pair here as well. So I'm going to label those accordingly as the length A, and there is the capital A, which is going to be the angle 15, which I'm going to take a sine of. And then I've got B here, which is I'm going to use 2 here. Now that could be C over sine C, remember it doesn't matter. There's B, and because that's the angle B, its corresponding angle will be, so that's x there, and that will correspond to sine B. So let's make that B. Now I'm just going to punch the numbers in again. So we've got A, which is 1 over sine of 15, you'll be doing this on your calculator, which is a quarter, equaling B there, which I know is 2 over, well I don't know what the sine of B is yet, so I'm just going to put sine of B. So very, very similar to the last time, except we're not working out the length, we're working out the angle, and this is the only other way that you can use the sine rule. So I'm going to go ahead and work out this bit here. So 1 divided by 1 over 4 equals 4. And it doesn't matter if you want to call sine of 15 0.25, you can do. I prefer fractions. That's just the way it's easier for me. But you use a calculator, and 0.25 is absolutely fine. Just get rid of that. Equals 2 over sine b. Now, how do we rearrange this equation? Well, all we do is we do not worry about this in the slightest. It's almost like sine b is, I don't know, it's like calling sine b x. So all I need to do is, if I had x, how would I move x? Well, I would multiply the top by x, which I know is sine b, and if I multiply the top by sine b, then I need to multiply the other side by sine b. I'm just going to move this all for us. That's better. And sine b, remember sine b is just a number, so a number divided by itself is 1. And then I've got sine b times 4. So if you like, I've now got 4 sine b's. Well, I don't want 4 sine b's. So I divide by 4, and if I divide that side by 4, I have to divide that side by 4. And what I end up with is sine b equals 2 over 4, which if I simplify that, becomes a half. Now, if you recall from the other video, all I do now is use the inverse function on my calculator. So I punch into my calculator sine to the minus 1 of a half, and you'll get out the answer. I'm really sorry, it's crammed into the bottom there. Sine of a half equals 30, so x equals 30, which is precisely what we had the last time round. So that's the sine rule, everybody. Thank you very much for watching this video, and you have been listening to and watching the Saltash Math Tutor. Thanks very much. If you need any help or anything else, then post and I will oblige. Bye.